Hello, I'm Lynne Sinclair Taylor. Welcome to my second session on drawing and painting with chalk pastels. Today I'm going to give you an overview of pastel techniques. Here you can see a variety of my pastel works that incorporate the techniques I'll be showing you today. I begin the techniques today with blending, and I will use two colours, a light and a darker colour. I'll begin with the light pastel, and initially you just very soft pressure, not too much pressure on the paper. Then I'll use the darker colour, again not too much pressure, and then just with little circular motions start rubbing that pastel into the paper and moving into the other colour. And you'll see as it's blended the colour dulls. So I'll go back over it, again not pushing too hard because pastels do break. And then I'll use the darker colour, give it more vibrance. And now because there's pastel on there, I will use a different finger to blend that light colour into the darker colour. Very simple technique, and you can get very realistic effects with this particular technique. Now just for the sake of variety, I'll add a different colour to my next technique. The next technique is broken colour, which reminds me of the Impressionists. So this is just little strokes. So I think of Impressionism when I use this stroke. Now I've purposely chosen a blue and a yellow because you'll see as I do it that when the blue touches the yellow it turns to green. And so I may be doing a landscape painting with lots of green in it. Instead of using just green pastels, I might use a combination of blue and yellow. And you'll see that when the blue touches the yellow, it actually turns to green. So it just makes your painting sing. It makes it a lot more creative and a lot more interesting. And you'll see already how quick pastel work is. It's very, very quick and instant. So if you can see that there is a green tinge to that because of the blue mixing into the yellow. And I can go back over that a little bit with more yellow if I wish. You don't usually combine more than two colours or three colours because the colours get muddy. So 3 is probably the maximum number of colours you would actually mix. The next technique is crosshatching, and this is a drawing medium. So you try and get a pastel with a sharp edge, and it's lots of parallel lines. And so you can just do it with one colour initially, and then you can have a bit more variety and add other colours. So this time I'm going to use 3 colours. So I put one stroke one direction, then on top of that diagonally, lots of lines, so it's a drawing medium. And then a third colour I'll place straight up and down, and it gives that woven look. And quite effective. So if you were doing a still life with a patterned tablecloth, for example, you could use this stroke. Very, very effective. And now we'll go on to side stroke. And this is using the pastel on its side. So we're going to do 3 different pressures. One just lightly to start with, one firmer next time, and firmer again next time. You can see the different depths of colour depending on the pressure that you actually place on the paper. That's side stroke, and you can imagine if I was doing clouds, I wanted to do big sweeping movements, I could use the pastel on its side, and very, very quick, very, very instant. Now you'll notice with colour mixing in pastels it's different to other mediums. And again I will use the pastel on its side. I'll do a square of a lightish colour. And now on top of that I'll do a darker colour, just 2 strokes of the darker colour, and then I'll reverse it and I'll do a square with the pastel on its side again, of the darker colour, and I'll put the lighter colour on top this time. And you'll notice these come out different colours. Even though they're mixing the same colours, they come out differently. So mixing colours in chalk pastels is a little bit different to other mediums. This time the technique is feathering, and I'm using very quick strokes, and they're different lengths of stroke, and I'm going to actually use 3 different colours, 3 different tones of blue just for interest, and they're different lengths of stroke and they weave in and out of each other so that you can't see a definite line between the colours. So it's 3 different tones of blue. Very quick, the quicker you do the stroke the better, the more effective, it's got a flowing feel. And you can do a whole painting in any one of these techniques. And again, you can see how quick and instant it is, but very important that you use your strokes quickly. The next one I'll do is a little bit tricky, it takes a little bit of practice, but it's called scumbling. And you hold the pastel on the side, and it can be just little strokes like that, just a little twist of the wrist, which can give very interesting patterns. This one particularly reminds me of fish scales, or you can do a bigger sweep with your hand and make bigger strokes. So that is quite an effective technique, scumbling. It can be used in an abstract painting, or maybe in painting of a fish, or anything that you want to use these particular shapes. The next technique is pointillism, which is just a lot of dots. And some of you may know of artists that do paintings in just with lots of dots. Very, very simple, again very, very quick and instant. And just for interest's sake, I'm going to use just 2 colours, just to make it a bit more interesting than using 1. So I'll just add a bit of red, which gives it a bit more sparkle. Very, very quick and very, very easy. That's the beauty of pastels. Anybody can do it. A child, a very young child can do this. To a very elderly person, just lots of little dots. Very easy to do. And gives a very attractive effect, I think. The next technique is just linear strokes, using the pastel as a drawing medium. So I might this is just using it as a drawing medium, and green and orange look effective together. You may just do little triangles, circles, very, very quick. Instant colour, stars, whatever, just using it as a drawing medium, as you may with a coloured pencil, something like that. Very, very simple, very free flowing. Here in this painting of a mirror and foal is my example of blending. Blending is used for realism, and you can see the coats of the horses are blended, and the whole background is very atmospheric. It has that softness which comes about by blending. Here is my painting yellow peppers on striped tablecloth, and you can see the cross-hatching technique used in the peppers. The beauty of cross-hatching is you can use a number of various colours without getting that muddied look. My painting of Monique, the technique I've used mostly is side stroke. The whole facial skin is just putting the pastel on the side and just stroking the top surface of the background. Here's an example of the drawing technique, or linear strokes, triangles and circles. It was purely executed by using the pastel as a drawing medium. You could use it with a hard pastel, which is much easier for drawing, or a very sharp edge on a soft pastel. It's important not to use too many techniques in one painting. An exception to that would be an abstract painting. For example, broken colour, that looks fantastic in a painting all by itself, but it reminds you, as I mentioned before, about Impressionism. The feathering, a whole painting can be done just in feathering, and of course it doesn't have to go just up and down, it can go diagonally as well, or any angle you like, as long as the flow is there. Abstract, as I mentioned, is totally different. You could combine all of these techniques, but in a realistic painting, really you wouldn't want to use more than 3 or 4. Here's my painting of Princess Diana. In this particular painting there are 3 different techniques. For her skin, because it's realism, blending was used. For her hair, giving that feathery stroke was feathering, lots of little wispy quick strokes which makes her hair look very realistic. For the collar on Diana's jacket, I've used the chalk pastels as a drawing medium, and for this it would be a lot easier to use a hard pastel. For the background, I've used blending to give that softness and a lot of atmosphere. For around her eyes, I've used pastel pencils for detail, where I can't use a chalk pastel because it's a little bit thick. So when I paint portraits, that is one time I do use pastel pencils for that detail around the mouth, around the eyes. So that was an overview of most of the common pastel techniques. In the next few videos, we'll look at some of these techniques in greater detail as I demonstrate their use in a painting.